Okay, where's that? Let's do this.
I was curious how often have you had your glasses replaced?
Hmm.
Yeah, usually these popular spectacle boutiques will usually call you back every 2 years. I've used these ones for a few years now.
Yeah, well, whenever the prescription changes, then I'll get the lenses replaced. But if you mean the frames themselves, yeah, you're right. I've had these particular frames for about 20 years, actually.
Oh, right, yeah. The one I go to usually just they use new frames.
Yeah, you
So
can
they,
do that. Yeah. I mean, that's usually what people do, yeah. But I like these frames, and so I say just reuse the frames and let's go again. I think the next time that I get a new prescription that I'll go with a new set of frames. Yeah. Yeah.
right, yeah.
But that'll be like a year from now, maybe.
So when I'm driving, I tend to take these off now. It's easier to see without them.
Yeah. Well,
There's,
I just like the size because yeah, when they're that big, they just look odd to me. But that's just a matter of aesthetics. You can't find the John Lennon circle glasses. They're just you can't find those. They're
not
nowhere.
really.
No, that's what I would go for, but this is the closest I could find, and I can't find a replacement for these frames.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. So the John Lennon frames, uh, well, they seem to be in old photos, don't they? You're going back quite a way when that sort of totally round look was popular.
That's right. They used to be classics, but nope. The only thing I can get are, yeah, frames that are like very large size, which I think looks very odd, but seems to be the style now. So I don't think I have a choice now. You're not supposed to use frames for as long as I have. These are probably, yeah, 25 years old. So, and that's probably too long to have them.
I
So
don't know, when did you start having prescriptions for glasses? You get what quite early in life, did you? Or
I was in second grade.
right, yeah, I think I started to get have trouble
Ugh.
seeing stuff up close, probably in my early 50s. And then I was just using cheapies for a while before I got prescription glasses. But you wonder about the quality, of course. That the ones that they have at most shops are probably pretty cheap, and you wonder if you spend a lot of money, could you get better stuff? Okay, now let's see. Clay's work seems to be all about the appetites, doesn't it? His checkered demon has no higher ideals, does he? It's just beer and sex.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey, Kia.
So it virtually becomes a sort of a hellscape. His world's. I noticed around page 100, he seemed to have his version of Barbarella. landing on a planet of zombies.
Right, right. Yeah, well, you were really, really, really interested in learning more about Wilson. So
Yeah, I think I've seen enough now.
it took 3 years. You now have learned everything there is to know.
Oh, this is the final large volume of his work, is it?
Yes. Where one of those days, one of those days, one of those days, it's got to be host tools. Share screen, chat, rename, unmute, start video, share docs, share notes, record to computer, share, react, chat. One of those days, one of those days, one of those days.
Now you see that.
Captions. Host caption control settings. Disallow. Thank you. Sorry, Kia. It screws up the recording. Cannot have the captions on.
Oh, you mean people's penchant for sending those little things flying across the screen all the time?
It screws up, well, the caption for what I'm saying right now, and then it'll say what I'm saying right now. And the caption.
Oh, right.
Caption. That's a caption for people who are hard of hearing or something, or they just want a caption just so they can visually read along what's being said. The problem with doing that, though, is it screws up the recording. See, because when it's later released on YouTube and Twitch, of course, you get the caption on that, and that screws up the YouTube and Twitch automatic captioning of its own. And so it becomes just an unreadable mess, which is, the reason I record them and post them onto YouTube is so that I can have an archive of them. See, and including the caption. And that's why we can't have the captions while the Zoom call is happening, Kia. That's why we can't. So, and I understand why people want the captions. I understand that because because people slur and people don't speak clearly and it's hard to hear. And I do that myself because I want to hear what people are saying and I can't hear what people are saying, especially Americans, because everybody mumbles. Everybody mumbles these days. Speak clearly. And so I do that myself. I turn on the captions just so I can, because they actually are pretty good about hearing what people are saying. So I do that myself. But I
Uh,
think we're pretty good about it. I think you and I, Stephen, we're pretty good about it. It seems to me that we're good about articulating what we're saying. So I don't
okay.
think there's a problem for us, Kia. That's so I think you're all right. I think you're okay.
Well, last night I went to a physics lecture. They have 4 physics lectures each Friday in July. And the speaker had vocal fry.
Woohoo. Yeah, that gets me too. Yeah.
Not an incredibly bad case, but it was there. And you get this thing where this is a person speaking in university in front of a huge crowd. And this is quite a public event, and the speaker is sort of just trailing off. You'd hear them clearly for a second, then they start trailing like that.
Yes. Right.
And yeah, I'm amazed, and because I suspect that vocal fry is just a psychological thing that people have got. It's something they've built into their lives. It's for clear communication, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's what is it? Some sort of psychological defense or something like that. But if you're just in normal life, fair enough. But when you're engaging in public speaking, and they seem to be oblivious to it.
Yeah.
They could have been worse. I suspect that they were trying to speak more clearly, but the habit is undying. So the mysteries of vocal fry get me.
Yeah, to me, it's more of an aesthetic preference. It's just like fingernails on the chalkboard for me.
I guess I'll put it up then.
Yeah, one of those days, it's just the thing is, thought I could very quickly find the thing that I'm looking for, and of course, I can't.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of buttons around these days.
I'm trying to find a thing that's in a book, and the website where lots of comics are went extinct just a couple of weeks ago. Very useful website, and it just went down just 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. What sort of stuff were you searching for there? Any particular types?
Well, there's a very, 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 very specific conversation about the purpose of art in regards to your comments regarding the purpose of art. And I am scrolling, scrolling, scrolling through a 260-page book, scrolling and thinking that I can find it very, very quickly. And of course, I am wrong about that thought because I cannot find it very, very quickly. But I continue to scroll.
Yeah, well, something I've noted in my historical research is that that period, the High Middle Ages, was there's an extraordinary amount of devotion to art. And it's something we see that spills over into the modern times as well. But the monarchs of the High Middle Ages were great patrons of art. You know, if there's something that they were going to spend their money on, you know, art was it. And of course, you know, you look at the court of Elizabeth I. You know, what is it? You know, unless you're a poet, as well as whatever else you were, you're a nobody.
Right.
If you're I think she had that little gremlin in the back room who, you know, was running the secret police, Cecil, the grey man, the man that they detested in Elizabeth's time. You know, they're like somebody who could come up with stand in courts and recite beautiful speech and stuff like that. And well, you go back to Eleanor of Aquitaine, you know, the great patron of the medieval romances, and how the culture was so devoted to the high arts. You look at the well, you've got the Gothic cathedrals. You know, it's such an amount of effort went into creating high art again, and of course you see that in the small German principalities, which hadn't quite made it to the modern world, which still existed at the time of the German Empire. You have these small monarchs devoted to great art. You finally, you know, with Mad King Ludwig in his crazy palace we see in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Mhm.
But what started to change, and this is something I picked up on, was you know, because I like ships and the history of ships, and how much in the 17th century the ships were just covered in artwork. And then in the 1720s, something like that, 30s, they mentioned that the Naval Board began to make rules about the amount of artwork that was allowed on ships, and artwork was only allowed on the prow and the stern. they pointed out that a lot of wood carvers went seeking work in churches and stuff like this. So this is the onset of Newton's age, the age of a mechanistic outlook. They looked at all the ship designs and created categories. This is what a 50-gun ship is. This is what a 60-gun ship is. This is what a 70-gun ship is. It's very, very categorized and not so much artwork anymore. But this, by our standards, it was still an age much more devoted to art than now. But we've come to live in a very sort of mechanistic age. So this is fandom about fandom, isn't it?
While you were talking, I found the thing that I was looking for, and I realized I was looking in the wrong book. I had the book wrong. That's why I wasn't finding it. I went to the correct book, and this is the thing I was looking for. One of those days. It's been one of those days. It's been one of those days. But here it is. Here's the thing I was looking for. Ask 1,000 of them what they want out of comics, what makes it all worthwhile, or what it takes to succeed, and you'll get 1,000 different answers. But listen closely, and you may notice some common themes, shared ideals, shared values, shared goals, like campfires. These are the underlying philosophies that creators have gathered around through the years, the beliefs that bind like-minded artists together with a sense of common purpose. These campfires don't number in the thousands. In fact, I think that many artists are drawn to just 4. First is the devotion to beauty, craftsmanship, and a tradition of excellence and mastery. The desire to create art that our descendants could dig up in 1,000 years and still think, hey, this is good stuff. The understanding that perfection may not be attainable in this life, but that's no reason not to strive for it. That's Hal Foster, Colleen Doran, and P. Craig Russell, Prince Valiant. The devotion to beauty, craftsmanship, and a tradition of excellence and mastery. Then there's the devotion to the content of a work, putting craft entirely in the service of its subject. The belief that if the power of the stories and characters come through, then nothing else matters. The willingness to tell stories so seamlessly that the teller of the story all but vanishes in the telling. That's Lynn Johnson with For Better or For Worse. That's Jack Kirby, Fantastic Four, and that's Archie Comics. The devotion to the content of a work. So we've got beauty, craftsmanship, and then the devotion to the content. Okay. Then there's the devotion to comics itself, to figuring out what the form of comics is capable of. The eagerness to turn comics inside out and upside down in an effort to understand the form's potential more fully. The willingness to let craft and story take a back seat, if necessary, in pursuit of new ideas that could change comics for the better. We've covered quite a few of representations of comics that would fall in that category. I'm sure you remember, Stephen, over the years. I know you've complained quite a bit about that.
Oh, well, yeah, it's just, people sort of trying to make a particular pain this work of art that sort of works against the story. You get lost. What's the point? The whole point of comics is a fluidity of the story, and the pictures are there meant to aid that process. Now, if you talk about Prince Valiant, you've probably got a guy that can do both, that can do spectacular art form combined with telling a story. But his was a strip comic originally, and of course, if you're just looking at a strip, you're only looking at so many images in that daily adventure. And you will create figures to inspire. So you have Prince Valiant's, beautiful armor and perfect Grecian muscular forms and perfectly formed maidens is an inspiring thing to look at in your newspaper on a daily basis, I suppose.
And finally, the desire for honesty, authenticity, and a connection to real life, the determination to hold up a mirror to life's face, warts and all, and to resist pandering and selling out. The conviction of artists to remain true to themselves while never taking themselves too seriously, to fly no one's flag, not even their own. He or she may discover a loosely affiliated tribe of like-minded comics artists that share such values. For discussion's sake, let's call them the classicists. Excellence, hard work, mastery of craft, the quest for enduring beauty, the animists, putting content first, creating art, creating life through art, trusting one's intuition, the formalists, understanding of, experimentation with, and loyalty to the comics form, the iconoclasts, honesty, vitality, and authenticity, and unpretentiousness, putting life first. Okay, so what I think you're saying is more over here, classicist animists, the content and the craftsmanship. And Wilson, I would put Wilson very definitely over here at the iconoclasts. It's just the reason we create art is what McLeod is saying here. And these are for, and I think equally valid. I don't think any one should predominate. It just depends on the goal of the work. I get the impression that for you, yeah, it's just about the craftsmanship and the content, the story. But and that you don't have a lot of time for these other two. Which is, fine. That comes down to personal taste. But if you ask me, I would say that any one of the four is a perfectly valid approach to creating art or purpose for why art should be created.
Yeah, well, certainly getting back to the idea of the aristos. So the Greek culture will claim to pursue excellence.
Yeah.
And today you wonder how often are they really pursuing excellence in most aspects of life. Uh, I'm sort of working on the idea that a lot of it is a problem to do with the ego. Uh, we've got Kierkegaard. He talks about the a person remaining at an aesthetic stage, which is actually an infantile stage, which is suitable for an infant, but doesn't work for the adult. But most people want to remain infantile. They would rather give over responsibility and direction to somebody else so they can concentrate more on their own navel, let's say, that the more on their own pleasure and leisure, that they wish to avoid the bigger questions, so they can just gravitate around their own internal feelings. And of course, there's that three aspects. I talk about the cognitive, which is thoughts, and the affective, which is feelings, and the volition, which is a will. So, you got to think about the time where your feelings lead you strongly, and you can sort of see at certain points, although your feelings give you a drive in life, they can mislead you.
Yeah, but so for Wilson specifically, Wilson very, very definitely is all about getting to the truth of the human experience. Uh, warts and all. It's a bit like, yeah, like punk rock. It's not intended to be beautiful. It's not intended to have a high level of craft, or even for that matter, storytelling. That's completely beside the point. It's like trying to listen to the Sex Pistols and judging them for their musical quality. That's not the point.
Uh,
The
well, it's
musical quality is not the point.
sort of stuff kids do. When they're 9 years old or 12 years old, they'll sort of doodle and they'll start creating a lot of these drastic sort of images. So Wilson never grew out of that phase, I suppose. There we are, the checkered demon.